Well, good afternoon. Another edition of Fair Game Laguna. Alex Rounaghi, our mayor, has joined me. Alex, good to see you again.
Tom, great to see you.
I actually saw you. I had Sunday I came or Monday I came down to the pancake breakfast, Labor Day pancake breakfast our firefighters put on. And I pull in and meander into the neighborhood and finally find a parking spot. If I was smart, I would have parked in the trolley and then trolleyed right to the front door.
Mm,
So
yes.
I went a ways away and parked, and I have my little grandson with me who, every one of my steps is like three for him. So about halfway there, he looks at me and says, Papa, when are we going to get there? And I'm thinking, like, I don't know, but hopefully soon. Uh, but I saw you there as I went through the line. Good crowd down there. Did you have a good time?
I had a good time and always a great time to, see so many people that I know and always grateful for the firefighters who they get there at like 5 in the morning to set that up. So the pancakes are always excellent and appreciate everyone who's involved, all the volunteers, Mozambique, Jedediah Coffee, everyone who was involved in that.
It's kind of interesting too. Like you talk about the firefighters, and I'm sure there were other people sprinkled in there, as far as lifeguards and perhaps a police officer too. Don't know, but I even saw Dee Perry.
Yep.
She was the first one collecting money.
Yep.
Good to see her, but just so many people coming together to make something like that happen.
Yes.
Lined up on the sidewalk, plenty of firefighters there to make sure that the pancakes and everything get done. Now, strategically, we used to strategically placed at the end of the line to kind of catch people as they're going through. Is that kind of a politician place to hang out? Because you left, and later I went by the same place and Sue Kemp was there.
Yeah, we switched places. I tagged out, she came in.
Okay. But it
No,
was a
I'm
good
kidding.
place. I mean, it's a good place
It
to
was
catch everybody.
it is a good place to catch people.
And then I meandered down to the lawn area. So beautiful. It was such a wonderful day. Sitting there, blue skies, overlooking the ocean, enjoying the pancakes, the orange juice, cup of coffee, and some sausage. Doesn't get any better than that.
It doesn't get better.
So anyway, I've got the next one marked down. It's something I don't want to miss. And even some of the people in the neighborhood as I was walking there, as we got close, people said, "What is this pancake breakfast?" And I said, "Oh yeah." And now that I've been there, it's something I don't want to miss going forward. Um, as I was downtown the other day, I was looking around and everything, noticed just a lot of vacancies around
Yep.
Laguna Beach. What's going on with that? And
Yeah.
is there optimism down the road as far as getting some of that stuff backfilled?
Yeah, so I think that it really, when we look at our vacancies in our downtown area, but also throughout town, this is a question I get asked about a lot because people really want to live in a vibrant community where you're able to go and go to cool shops and, have great food. And vacancies are obviously a huge challenge, not only from the resident perspective, but also from the city macroeconomic perspective of, bringing in, sales tax revenue and property tax revenue and everything like that. And so vacancies are something that we want to avoid. And I really think that to understand the problem requires you to sort of put yourself in the shoes of, okay, if I wanted to open up a business in Laguna Beach and I need a conditional use permit, what would that take? And in the past, I've spoken to, Zach Cornwall from Sandwiches. I've spoken to the Golden Spoon that just opened, Truly Pizza, which is opening in North Laguna and also having a South Laguna location that was sold to them by the city, the Tiamo property. And when you talk to all these people, what they tell you is they didn't expect that it would take so long to open up a business in Laguna Beach. And if you ask them today in hindsight, if you knew how long it would take, would you open up a business in Laguna Beach? And typically the answer is no. And that's a huge problem because when you have a regulatory process where it's almost irrational to invest and open up a new business, that's not a place that we want to be as a city. And so, from the council's perspective, we've looked at this in many different ways. One is parking requirements. Our parking requirements are designed essentially for a city like Aliso Viejo, where you have the room to have a lot of surface level parking. You don't have a walkable, pedestrian oriented community that we have, a pedestrian oriented village like we have. Parking requirements get in the way. It requires city staff to basically do a bunch of complicated math to figure out a way to open up businesses. That adds time to the process. Our conditional use permit process adds time because you have to go to the planning commission where you might not even, where it's an unpredictable process by nature, a conditional use permit. So what we're doing is we're streamlining our zoning code. We're making it easier to comply with the parking requirements, but then also looking at ways to make more uses by right over the counter as opposed to through our CUP process. That is ultimately going to be the way to have more businesses opening up in Laguna Beach. Because you think about a lengthy, complicated process that requires a planning commission approval. Ironically, that is something that a chain business that has a lot of resources and capital and lawyers and attorneys and consultants, they're able to navigate that process. But we don't want chains in Laguna Beach, right? We want to have small businesses that are able to thrive and open in Laguna Beach. And so we really need to focus on simplifying our process, streamlining our regulations, and then creating a timeliness and predictability to our process. One of the things the council's done is we have every month the planning department, the community development department gives us a report of the timeline that it takes for each application to come through. And what we're seeing is the trends are heading in the right direction. But they need to move at a much quicker pace. As you know, Tom, I spent a day behind the counter at community development just to watch the complicated process in action. And what I will tell you is it is so even there's so much ambiguity that adds time. So anyway, I think to answer your question about how do we deal with vacancies, really what we need to do is deal with our streamline our process, add predictability, add timeliness. And I think if we do all three of those things, the sky becomes a limit in terms of who would want to open up a business in Laguna Beach.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I think it's great that you're tackling all that stuff. And then the one additional thing you need to do is need to
Hmm.
get the word out.
Exactly.
Because unfortunately there are certain cities that make rule changes or like Laguna has set up this cumbersome process. And once that changes or whatever, you got to get the word out because there are
100%.
developers out there and things like that, or people that are looking to put retail locations in that will just say, somebody will come up and say, "Hey, how about Laguna Beach?" Oh, I've just heard the process.
Exactly.
They're terrible. So get the word out and we'll probably be good to go.
Yeah, and we hired an economic consulting firm that's helping us do just that. But to me, I really think it comes back to our process. If we can show people that our process is going to work, then part two becomes really easy. But part one really needs to be on actually showing that you can get your approval in a reasonable period of time.
Very good. I don't want to end on a sad note today,
Yeah.
but there are people over the years, and we've talked about this in previous podcasts, people that had foresight, people that did so
Yes.
much to shape the community the way the community has been shaped and committed long-term processes to that and long-term commitment. This morning I got an email saying that Ann Johnson had passed away. I know you knew Ann
Yes.
very, very close. Talk about that loss. Talk about what she meant to this community.
Well, I think Ann Johnson is someone who, to your point, is an example of the kind of visionary that has been responsible for making Laguna Beach the place that it is today. She was on the planning commission for, I think, more than 2 decades. She was sort of like the unofficial mayor of Laguna Beach. We were all just sort of the front, and she was actually running the show.
Right.
And I first met Ann in 2012 when she was the campaign manager for Bob Whalen's first race for city council. That's how we met. And then she was the chairwoman for my last minute city council campaign in 2022. She also was responsible for getting Sue Kempf on the city council and getting her involved in joining the planning commission and getting involved in public service. So I think that someone like Ann Johnson, there are very few people like her in the world who are willing to devote so much time to public service. And clearly, I think everyone would say that Laguna Beach is better off because of her impact. And I can say personally that my life and um, my public service career is better because of her role model, her example, her mentorship. And so I will definitely miss Anne, but she'll always be a voice in my head when I'm thinking about decisions and so we're all going to miss her so much, but it's a big loss for our community, and we send our love to Marv and her whole family, for the loss because we truly lost a giant. So it's very sad to hear. I got the word this morning from Sue Kempf, who's been very close to Anne and has helped take care of her. And so Anne's looking down on all of us.
Sad, sad, sad. But we will remember her fondly and
Absolutely.
her thank her family too for allowing her to make that kind of commitment to Laguna Beach. So
Absolutely.
we'll check out on that. Alex, we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.